As of May 19, 2026, Nvidia is trading around $222.32 with a market cap of roughly 5.44 trillion and a trading P of near 54.5. And so, using this, the shares are slightly lower on the day, but the bigger story is that the company is heading towards these earnings with a level of anticipation that feels less like earnings report and more like a national event for the semiconductor IC. And Nvidia is not walking into that report empty-handed. Over the past few weeks, it has been quietly building out the infrastructure side of the AI boom with billion-dollar investments and strategic partnerships, while Wall Street keeps getting more optimistic and skeptics keep sharpening their knives. That makes this a very specific kind of showdown. The market is betting that AI spending keeps accelerating, while the bears are betting that the hype machine eventually runs out of the road. Why this earnings release matters so much? Nvidia's next earnings report is confirmed for Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, after the close, which is why every move in the stock this week has felt amplified. In the late February, Nvidia already reported record fiscal 2026 revenue of $215.9 billion, including the record data center revenue of $62.3 billion. So this new report is not about whether Nvidia is strong. It is about whether the company can keep outrunning expectations while the AI build-out is still in full sprint. That is what makes the current setup so interesting. The stock is not just being judged on one quarter, it is being judged on whether the entire AI infrastructure cycle still has enough fuel left in the tank. Nvidia has become the hardware version of the market's favorite overachiever. Every time it hands in a perfect paper, everyone asks whether it can do an even harder one next time. Core Wave, the stake that says we are not messing around. The most striking move is Nvidia's near doubling of its stake in the Core Wave. Reuters reported in January that Nvidia invested $2 billion in Core Wave, taking its ownership to about 47.3 million shares, or roughly 11% of the company, and valuing the position at about $3.6 billion. That is a meaningful amount of capital, but the bigger point is strategic. CoreWeave builds data centers almost exclusively with NVIDIA hardware, and it also acts as a distribution channel for NVIDIA GPUs. That relationship matters because it helps lock in demand for future chips generations. If CoreWeave keeps expanding its AI cloud business, NVIDIA is not just selling one generation of chips and hoping for the best. It is helping create a customer whose whole business model depends on buying the next generation and the one after that. That is how you move from a simple supply relationship to something much closer to a self-reinforcing ecosystem. It is the corporate equivalent of making the nicest ladder in town, then discovering your biggest customer needs that exact ladder every single day. There is also a slightly less glamorous but very important message here. NVIDIA wants control over the plumbing, not just the silicon. CoreWeave is a reminder that AI is not only about the chip in the server, it is also about who owns the servers and powers them, who fuels them, and who gets first call on supply when the next generation arrives. NVIDIA is clearly trying to make sure it sits at the center of that entire chain. The physical side of AI is where the plot thickens. NVIDIA is also shoring up the physical side of AI infrastructure. Reuters reported that the company has a stake of 7.8 million shares in Coherent and that it has a technology partnership with Cornings to expand US optical connectivity manufacturing for AI data centers. Reuters also said NVIDIA has paid several $billions to help fund new Cornings factories in addition to taking an equity stake disclosed earlier. That is a big clue about NVIDIA's strategy. It does not want to be trapped by one bottleneck in the AI supply chain. Why does that matter? Because AI infrastructure are not just GPUs sitting on shelves. They need lasers, optics, connectors, glass, networking, power, cooling, and a lot of physical stuff that most investors only remember exists when it becomes scarce. NVIDIA is acting like a company that understands the biggest constraint in AI may not be demand, it may be the ability to physically build and connect enough of the infrastructure to satisfy demand. That is not just cheap design. That's the vertical integration with the hard atom. If you're benefiting from this video so far, please like, share, and subscribe to help more people to access the video. Corning's side on the story is especially important. Reuters reported that the partnership is about boosting U.S. production of optical connectivity products for AI data centers, and Corning separately raised its long-term outlook as AI demand grew. In normal language, Nvidia is helping finance the pipes that move the data, not just the engines that crunch it. If AI chips are the brains, then optical networking is the nervous system. You can have the smartest brain on earth, but if the nerves are slow, the whole organism walks around like it woke up at 4 a.m. with one shoe missing. Wall Street meanwhile is piling up on the optimism. Morgan Stanley raised its Nvidia target to $285 and said its updated estimate implies $884 billion in data center revenue over calendar 2026-2027 versus about $785 billion in consensus expectations. In the same vein, Priviledge lifted its target to 300, pointing to stronger Blackwell shipments and additional revenue next quarter, while TD Cowen raised its target to 275 on continued AI demand and hyperscale capital spending. UBS also lifted its target to 275, saying that Nvidia could beat its own revenue guidance by about $3 billion. This is not the tone of a market that thinks the story is over. It is the tone of a market that believes the next leg of the AI build-out is still underappreciated. Morgan Stanley's revised forecast is especially striking because it is not just saying Nvidia can beat this quarter. It is saying the whole data center revenue opportunity over the next couple of years is bigger than the market was thinking. That's the kind of revision that can keep a stock expensive for a long time, because every fresh estimate becomes a new launching pad. Looking at the 5-year roadmap from cautious to wild, here's a simple 5-year scenario frame for Nvidia, and it's best treated as analysis rather than a prophecy. In a bear case, the stock could land around 300 to 330 if AI spending stabilizes, custom chips nibble at share, and the valuation multiple compresses towards a more normal level. In a best case, 400 to 515 makes sense if Blackwell, Rubin, and networking keep compounding and data center demand remains structurally strong. In a bull case, 650 and above becomes plausible only if Nvidia successfully monetizes physical AI at a scale and earnings compound near 25% annually for years. Those are scenario assumptions, not guarantees, but they line up with the idea that Nvidia can still be expensive and still possibly have a room to run. The bull case is especially interesting because it is not just about more GPUs. It is about robotics, autonomous systems, and other physical AI applications that need chips, networking, and training infrastructure all at once. If Nvidia can convert AI from a software boom into a broader industrial stake, then the company is no longer just selling picks and shovels to the gold rush. It's also selling the maps, drills, the rail cars, and the power grid too. This is how you get from a great chip company to foundational platform for the next computing era. If you're benefiting from this video, please like, share, and subscribe. What are your thoughts about when Nvidia will be in the next 5 years? Please let me know your thoughts, and please remember God loves you and says, fear God and give glory to Him, for the hour of His judgment is come. Worship Him who made heaven and earth and the seas and the waters. Please, let's love God because He loved us, and also let's remember to put Him first in whatever we do. See you then in the next video.